The end of the winter 2023 season of anime is rapidly approaching, and while it's exciting to look forward to the upcoming season of anime, this season has a surprising amount of honestly great anime that haven't been talked about a lot. I'll be going over my top picks of the season, and hopefully you'll find something new to watch. If you leave this video with only one anime, it has to be Kaina of the Great Snow Sea. While the 3D characters don't look great, the anime more than makes up for it with its stunning backgrounds and scenery, accompanied with music by Kota Yamamoto, who you've probably heard in Attack on Titan in '86. The story follows Kaina, the youngest of a small village of only 5 people who live in a tree atop the canopy, far above the snow-covered world below. Meanwhile, on the surface, there are kingdoms at the bases of the giant trees, but there's one problem. Despite being surrounded by so-called snow, water is running out. This is an issue for everyone, both above and below, which is the source of some heavy conflict. One kingdom in particular, Valgan, has been especially vicious, taking down many kingdoms with their devious tactics and advanced warfare capabilities. Ririha, a princess of a kingdom that has found itself the latest Valgan target, is desperately searching for the Great Sage, a legend from her childhood stories telling of a man atop the trees who can spring forth water, which she hopes will solve all of their problems. She ends up floating to the top of the canopy and meets Kaina, only to discover that her childhood stories were in fact just stories, and that her search has been in vain. With help from Kaina, Ririha sets off on a journey back to try to save her failing kingdom. If you're not bothered by the 3D CG, I highly recommend this one. It's some of the best world building I've seen in a very long time. It starts off a bit slow and gets more and more tense as the story progresses, so give it a few episodes before making up your mind. Next on my list is Revenger, which is created and written by Gen Urobuchi, known in the anime sphere as Urobutcher for his rather harsh treatment of characters. He's known for his work on Madoka Magica and Psycho-Pass Season 1 among other things, and he's back at it with a really intriguing tale of a samurai who is tricked into killing an innocent man. He ends up joining a team of assassins who call themselves Revengers. They take on special jobs, one's driven by revenge, where the only payment is a piece of gold with a bite mark. In Gen Urobuchi fashion, what begins as disconnected episodes soon comes together to form one central narrative. It's an anime original, so we don't know if they'll pull off a good ending, but I'm really enjoying the way it's heading. Then there's Fire Hunter, a novel adaptation done by some industry veterans out of love for the novel. And when I say novel, I mean novel, not light novel, which means that all of the usual tropes can be thrown out the window. The first episode was a breathtaking look into a very unusual world, one in which humans must stay away from fire, otherwise they literally spontaneously combust. This leads to a lot of interesting consequences. The first is that there's not much in the way of artificial lighting, no candles, no electricity, no combustion engines either. Thankfully, there's a weird fake fire to help a bit, which they use to create steam-powered vehicles. The sad thing is that everything after the first episode tanks dramatically in terms of animation quality. The story is still there, but personally, I couldn't help but get distracted by the bad production, so this one's been an unfortunate casualty on my watch list. Those who are still watching are still loving it though, so if you're in the mood for a good story set in a really interesting world, check it out. You'd think with Kaina of the Great Snow Sea and Fire Hunter that we'd have our fill of world building, but there's a third anime this season that also has a pretty interesting world, and that's Giant Beasts of Ours. Ours is a multicultural world that has been fighting giant beasts for decades with the help of pairs of paladins and clerics, a man and a woman who are contracted together and fused to become one superpowered being. This anime follows Kumi, who appears to be a lab-born cleric who escapes her containment, and Jiro, a former paladin that she runs into. Along the way, they slowly increase their numbers and become a group of 5, as you clearly see in the opening. The episodes get a bit stale, with a Maho Shoujo style transformation sequence and a fight every single episode. That said, the overarching mystery behind the world and characters has been very engaging. For example, what's up with this cat chapeau species? Why do they all look and sound the same except for the animal on the head? Why does every village seem to have one that they then negotiate with? Like Revenger, this one's an anime original, which means no one knows how this one will turn out. I'm a bit skeptical that we'll get answers for everything within the few remaining episodes, but I remain optimistic that we'll at least get a good resolution. In Romcom land, there's 2 major hitters this season. The first is Tomo-chan is a Girl, which is about Tomo-chan, who is in fact a girl. Shocking, I know. This anime follows Tomo, a tomboy main character whose years of karate training have made her a force to be reckoned with. She's developed a crush on her childhood friend and karate partner in crime Junichiro, and the anime begins with her confessing her love to him, except that Junichiro totally misreads the situation since he thinks of her as a guy. She must now try to make herself seem more girly in his eyes in the hopes of getting together with him. She gets some help from her other childhood friend Gundo, who is not only incredibly devious but also on very bad terms with Junichiro, and not too long after, a crazy foreigner by the name of Carol shows up and butts herself into their lives. I wasn't a fan of her at first, but she quickly grew on me and I now realize that she's essentially a source of chaotic energy, much like Chika was in Kaguya-sama Love is War. The best thing going for this anime is the cast. The chemistry between these 4 characters is absolutely perfect to create some wild and hilarious scenarios. It took me a few episodes before I really got into it, but now it's one of my top of the season and a very strong recommendation from me. I hate to put this one right after Tomo-chan is a girl, but The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten is another great rom-com. While Tomo-chan is a girl is primarily a comedy, The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten leans far more into the romance side of things. The main character, Fujimiya, is honestly a pretty bland character. He tends to keep to himself until he comes across a sad-looking girl sitting on a swing in the rain. The girl turns out to be none other than Sheena, the most popular girl in his school, loved by girls and boys alike and with some of the best grades of their year. She also happens to be his next-door neighbor. He ends up lending her his umbrella, and the next day he catches a cold, because as we all know, spending more than 10 seconds in Japanese rain is sure to make you sick. To return the favor, she nurses him back to health, only to find that this dude is living like a hobo. Taking pity on him to ease her own loneliness, she helps him clean his apartment and starts giving him daily meals, and the relationship develops from there as he gets to know the true girl behind her perfect facade at school. All in all, this is pretty contrived as far as stories go, and it's done by Project Number 9, who aren't known for the best animation quality, but despite all that, it's been pretty fun and I actually do look forward to this one every week. What can I say? I'm a sucker for romance. Do you know what else I'm a sucker for? People subscribing to my channel. Isekai. Isekai fans are eating good this season, quite literally. Among the greats this season is campfire cooking in another world. I put this one off for a while because it sounded generic and boring, but I finally gave it a try and oh my god, look at that food! The sizzling, the sauces, and best of all, this big dog's goofy face when he eats delicious food. It's like a wholesome Food Wars Isekai and I'm all here for it. Just don't watch it while you're hungry. Then there's the reincarnation of the strongest exorcist in another world. If you like isekai trash where the main character is secretly overpowered, you've come to the right place. Seika was the strongest exorcist in the world, with insanely powerful spirit magic and familiars. Due to a betrayal, he ends up getting killed, but not before using a spell on himself to reincarnate. That's right, he's responsible for his own isekai. He goes from his world of spirit magic to a world of what we would consider normal magic. Fire, wind, earth, water, the usual. Although he's the only one in his family without magic, he secretly still has his absolutely overpowered spiritual magic abilities as well as his familiars. Not wanting a repeat of his previous life, he decides to get strong, but to do so while not being the strongest so that he doesn't have a big target on his back. On a completely different note, I offer you the magical revolution of the reincarnated princess and the genius young lady. As you can guess with that ridiculously long title, it's also an isekai. We don't know much about her previous life other than that it was in this world, but in this life she was born as a princess, and though magic runs in the royal family, she somehow ended up without magic. Wait a second, I'm getting some deja vu. There are 2 things you should know about Anisfia. First, she goes around killing monsters and looting their bodies for magic stones, which she uses to develop magic tools to compensate for her lack of magic. Second, she's into girls and is looking for a girlfriend. And would you look at that? Yuffie, one of the best girls, has found herself single in a rather traumatic way and Anis is here to save the day. Did I mention the Sakuga? Look at this! If you want a completely chill slice of life isekai, Farming Life in Another World is one where the main character has a horrible life and dies at the age of 39. God said it was a mistake and wanted to make it up to him, so he gets reincarnated with a magic do-it-all farming tool where he gets to live out his new life in what can only be described as Fantasy Stardew Valley with a harem and where absolutely nothing ever goes wrong. If you're a trash lover like me and you want to really delve into the garbage pile, then there's the I can't believe it's not isekai of the season, the Ice Blade Sorcerer Shall Rule the World. All I'll say is that he's secretly one of the 7 great sages and he goes to school. If this is for you, then you and I already know it, so do yourself a favor and just go check it out. Just know that this one is really, really bland, but that you'll watch it anyways. Continuing a bit further on the path to degeneracy is Onimai, I'm Now Your Sister. I have a whole video about this one, but in short, it's about a 20-year-old guy called Mahiro who's a shut-in. He has a genius mad scientist little sister who secretly drugs him, turning him into a middle school girl. This anime is essentially about a guy learning about womanhood and getting rehabilitated into society, which has its lewd moments but is also unexpectedly wholesome at times. That's all the anime I'll be going over today. I hope you're able to come out of this with at least 1 new anime. If future seasons are as stacked as this season, anime has a really bright future. If you like this list, please be sure to like and subscribe. Did I miss your favorite anime of the season? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.